Diane Hardy, but everybody calls me Miss T. I am a proud mother of four. I am a community leader. I am a mental health and youth advocate, and I love my city. All four of my kids attend Baltimore City schools. They go to Guilford Elementary Middle School. I have been actively volunteering at school, at my kids' school. I've led several protests for the Baltimore Education Coalition. I've spoken at many events. I have created a behavioral intervention program. I'm like the community aunt, so I'm 24/7 with my community children. Every child has my phone number. Should they need anything or whatever, I'm always there. I created a behavioral intervention program, and my long-term goal is to make sure that that's not just an accessory at a school, that it becomes a necessity, that every school has a behavioral intervention team, because you never know what somebody's going through. Sometimes it's not just about running into the classroom and stopping a fight. Sometimes, getting to know these students, being a smiling face in the morning, you don't know what these children go through at night, and you don't know what they go through before they get to school. And sometimes you being there and being someone that they can talk to can make such a major change. My long-term and short-term goal would be to make behavioral intervention programs a necessity and mandatory at every school, so that we can focus on mental health with our students. There's a lot of needs that aren't being met, and I believe in a village mentality, and that includes the school being there to fulfill some of those needs that, if parents can't meet them, somebody has to meet them. These kids didn't ask to be here. I believe every school, though, needs a community school coordinator, and it shouldn't just be one person. I think it should be a team, because it's a big job, especially in our urban city schools. I have high hopes for everyone, that this will be a good merge for these kids, not just the Guilford children, but also the kids at Walter P.
My name is Zeke Cohen, and I'm a city councilman, and I chair the education committee on the Baltimore City Council. I studied at Goucher College. I graduated in 2008, right at the height of the recession, as a teacher in Baltimore City Public Schools, taught in West Baltimore and in South Baltimore, and then ran a nonprofit for about 7 years where we taught civic leadership and community organizing to high school students, and studied public policy at Hopkins. I've always been intrigued by politics and the role that public policy can have in shaping cities. In our country as well. When you think about a place like Baltimore with such deep inequities, so much of it has to do with public policy, whether it's our original charter having residential segregation written into it, whether it's redlining or blockbusting or racial housing covenants. So much of it shapes the way our city is currently segregated. And so for me as a teacher, watching young people living in substandard housing, often being poisoned by lead paint, overly exposed to violence and trauma, and then just being really cheated out of a decent education, I think that's a big part of what motivated me to want to run for office and become a city councilman. I chair the education committee on the city council, and I know from my experience as a teacher that Baltimore City schools have been cheated out of depending on which analysis you use, at least $290 million per year since 2012. That's according to the state's own legislative services. We have some of the oldest school buildings in the state of Maryland, buildings where you can't drink the water because it's contaminated with lead. Heat, air conditioning are all either non-existent or malfunctioning, as we saw last year. And so it is critically important that the Kirwan Commission be implemented, that whether it's the recommendations on early childhood, on community schools, on facilities, on accountability, it is all critically important. I am actively advocating for a robust Kirwan report, and I actually organized with some of my counterparts, other education chairs around the state, a listening tour where we went to different schools across Maryland and saw the conditions, both good and bad. So we went to Montgomery County, Prince George's, Baltimore City. We've just gone all over the place and seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. And what we all agree is that we need better for our kids. We as a state cannot continue to fall in the rankings. Our future economic well-being depends on whether we get our school system right. So I'm going to keep using my voice and my platform to elevate the work of the Kirwan Commission.